of a bustling city in America may not seem like the obvious place to start a mountain bike video, but here is where we find the headquarters of a company that invented a few things that we may take for granted on a mountain bike ride. This company invented the first set of sealed thermal goggles with breathable vent foam, and they invented the roll-off in 1984. Now they are an eyewear and helmet company with a certain style that is colorful and creative and at the center of a bunch of outdoorsy sports, much like the city of Portland. Today, we go behind the scenes at Smith Optics. So a big thank you to Smith Optics for inviting us out here to the headquarters in Portland. So I'm going to get to speak to a bunch of designers and product developers to find out what really goes into making a product like this.
Smith's history of innovation really starts with our founder, Dr. Bob Smith. Dr. Bob Smith was a dentist who saw an opportunity on stormy days when other riders had to go inside. At the time, it was pretty normal for riders to be wearing single lens goggles or sunglasses. So taking inspiration from dual pane windows at the time, he hit his kitchen table and using his dental tools, foam and glue, the world's first ever dual lens goggle was born. 1979 was a huge year for us. It was the year that we introduced our first ever performance sunglasses, but we also introduced the turbofan goggle. The turbofan goggle used micro fans in the brow of the goggle to create the world's first ever active ventilation system in snow goggles. In 1984, we patented our first ever roll-off system, which uses a microfilm to keep riders' vision, dust, and mud free. In 1995, we launched the Slider Sunglass series. This was a groundbreaking technology at the time and introduced lens interchangeability to the performance sunglass market. So after years of development in 2007, we finally introduced the Aiyo goggle. The Aiyo introduced lens interchangeability to the snow goggle market, again allowing riders to adapt their lenses for varied light conditions. In 2015, we set out to make our mark in the bike industry with the launch of the Forefront mountain bike helmet and introduced our Koroyd technology that helps to reduce head injuries on impact. In 2019, we were able to introduce our Forefront 2 mountain bike helmet. This is still a bedrock within our bike collection today, and it's still featuring full thermoformed Koroyd, helping to protect riders at all levels.
Smith, obviously being in the snow industry first, I think there was always this ask to get into the bike industry. A lot of our users in the snow space definitely also ride mountain bikes and road bikes, and so entering the market, we wanted something different. Smith is super great at pushing boundaries when it comes to color, especially in the cycling space. I think some of it does come over from the snow side of the business, where they aren't afraid of color there, definitely. But then when you think of cycling, you know, your typical blues, blacks, reds, whites, yellows, you know, that's standard across the industry, but we pay super close attention to color. We send our design crew out on trending trips. We pay super close attention to what's happening in the fashion industry. And we take all of that inspiration when we're considering what colors are we going to bring into the market every year. So we do a number of different collaborations, both on all sides of the business, snow, eyewear, and bike. So we've worked with IAGO on a number of different items. Last year we did have a mainline full face helmet with a print coming from him, as well as a matching goggle. And this year in 2023, we actually launched our new rhythm goggle with an IAGO specific colorway. And so he comes to us with these really awesome like Pinterest inspiration boards, and we just kind of send that to our designer in-house, and they go to work on making that come to life. And there's a few rounds, we make sure that he likes it, and we make it come to life.
From the starting point, our category managers, Sheila in the bike world, she'll take some insights, data that's out in the market, insights from our athletes and things like that, and kind of boil it down to see what we need, what we're missing in our product line. We have kind of a small team here, just a few engineers and designers. The product team is around 10 or so people, and we gather together and start to ask questions, really get into the nitty-gritty before we even start the design process. And then once we get into design, the process really starts going. It's a couple of weeks, we'll do a design, and then we'll go back, do some comments. So this here is a tech pack. This piece here on the page is what the designers give to us to deliver to the CAD engineers that we have in-house. This is just to give the CAD engineers a really good detailed look at all of the angles of the helmet, and that then allows the engineers to take a 2D form and then turn it into a 3D form.
Depending on the project, 2 to 4 months in design, that comes over to engineering. We start realizing that in 3D and start with the external surfaces and interpret the industrial design intent while overlaying some of the volumes and thicknesses we need for performance, and starting to plan for integrating our technologies for impact, like Colroyd, and rotation like MIPS. So after about 2-3 months and any number of 3D prints to get the externals right, we'll start really diving into the internals and spend another few months working those out with the extended teams at both Colroyd and MIPS, and also our factory partners, make sure everything goes together, is going to perform like we want it, and we can build it. The Forefront 2 process was probably around 8 months to get from kind of concept to let's start tooling. But depending on the project, depending on the helmet, we can go from 6 months to a year to get that where we want it to be.
The Rhythm was our first ground-up mountain bike goggle, so went back from scratch and looked at what can we do to make the best mountain bike goggle that we can. A big focus for me through this project was maximizing field of view and kind of making use of all the space that we have, particularly on our mainline full-face helmet. People like that we have this open kind of frame design here, but want something to block kind of dirt, water, debris. So we created like a simple screen design that just snaps in around the frame. Roll-off was definitely an ask from our athletes. It was really just making sure we had enough space on the lens, kind of out on the sides, to be able to fit the footprint that was needed. Small mainline was definitely a constraint, and we got to make sure that this goggle is not too big to be worn with that helmet, and then also just keeping an eye on like kind of the competitive landscape, making sure we're not making a goggle that only fits our helmets, something that'll work with kind of a majority of what's out there on the market.
So this is our SLA printer. We use this guy for really high fidelity prints. So we're just kind of checking like, okay, how's our surfacing? How's like the really fine details looking, to get an idea of what it's gonna look like when it's injection molded or it's like a finished piece. It's really towards the end of our process. It's like the final review with the team. We've been staring at this thing at CAD for a really long time, and it's kind of in our heads and in the box. So it's nice to get it out into the real dimensions we're gonna use, or sometimes we'll even scale things up to see how the surface finish is looking. And this is just kind of getting final buy-off with the whole Smith team.
it's a kind of a big deal that it's like this right now. Typically, this has been a very wet winter, so I'm excited to be out here in the woods with all of my compatriots. So we're at the picnic table in Forest Park, up Saltzman Road. Kind of a typical gravelly mountain bikey ride that we do. Pretty easy to access from the office. Just pop over the river and through the woods and you're there. This is like summertime evenings, a spot we ride to and hang out at, and there's a bunch of different trails that go off from here, so it's a kind of a good meeting spot. And everybody knows, like, I'll meet you at the picnic table. So this position is relatively new for me. I'm at like 10 weeks at the moment, so I've just been sort of going around the office and finding out who rides what and what style of riding is the most popular. I don't know what the actual divide is between skiers and cyclists. It seems like there's a lot of crossover. I do know that when we did our annual ski day, pretty much everyone was out there on the mountain, so that's been super cool to see. But I know there's always a lot of bikes hanging around the office, so it's part of my job to make sure that we get excited about that side of it. My hope is to get some weekly rides going. I know coming up in a month here, we're gonna actually work with the Northwest Trail Alliance to do some trail maintenance and trail building out at Rocky Point. But it's my hope as we're, just heading into summer to get some rides going and it seems like you can look around and see there's some heavy duty mountain bikes that are ready to rip this summer.
I think at a glance, Smith could look like a cool brand with a great style, or maybe just a snowboarding brand that's trying to diversify. But I think it's clear that it started with that invention back in 1965, and they've not stopped inventing since. And the crossover from snowboarding does bring a great style. It also brings great knowledge in safety technology, and it's something we need in mountain biking. So I think they're doing a great job, and it's clear these guys are passionate mountain bikers and just all-round outdoorsy loving people. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you think? Have you learned a few things about Smith Optics?